It's Wednesday, March the 16th. Lake level is 916 3/4. It's come up about 1.5 feet since our report last week. We got quite a bit of rain in Springfield Sunday, so that's what's bringing the lake up. And looks like it crested out today. They're generating quite a bit of water, so it's starting to go down a little bit now. But for the most part, the water temperatures, they're anywhere from 52 degrees as high as 60 degrees. Now, it was a little colder this morning because it got cold last night, but I started out in Ants Creek and it was probably mid-50s, 55 degrees. Now, as I went down lake, up towards Baxter and Kimberling area, the main lake seemed like it cooled down pretty good to about 52 degrees, but get back in the pockets and it was, 55 degrees. Now, this past weekend, there was found a lot of 60-degree water. It's kind of crazy. You'll go in one pocket in the very back and, about halfway all the way to the back, and it'll be roughly 60 degrees. You go to the next pocket laying the same direction, and it might only be 56, 57. But fish are definitely moving around quite a bit. I've actually found a few fish on beds this past weekend. I think once this little cold front gets out of here this coming weekend, the fish are really going to hit the beds hard. We got a full moon coming up, I think sometime next week. But the water clarity is really getting pretty good. It's cleaning up in a lot of areas. The lake is still turning over in a few places, so you run into a little kind of brownish red water in areas, but don't be afraid of them areas. That's where I'm getting some of my better spinnerbait bites. Now, I've had some tough days and some good days. Like this morning, the first 2 hours of the day, we never had a bite. And then, from about 10 o'clock to 11:30, we had like 6 keepers. So a lot of it's timing and, being in an area where the fish are moved up. And it seems like that's a different place every day. But I'm catching a lot more fish on gravel this past week or so than I have been. Before it was a lot of rock transitions. Now it seems, especially in the backs of the creeks, there's a lot more buck bass. We're starting to catch a lot more smaller fish, but just, still some good quality fish. We fished a tournament this past weekend. We had, 5 that weighed 16 that took almost 20 to win. And there was several stringers in the 15-pound range. So it was, the quality fish biting good. Catching them on a variety of baits. I'm catching quite a few on a spinnerbait and a crankbait still. And the spinnerbaits I'm throwing kind of depends on the water clarity. If I get into some of that real nasty looking water, and actually up in the James River, earlier last week was some of the cleanest water that I had seen. But with all that rain in Springfield, it seems to be muddying up a little bit. I went over the bridge a few hours ago, and it's not real bad mud, but it's got a brown color to it again. But anyways, if I'm in the dirtier water, I've been using either a big Indiana or a Colorado single spin chartreuse and white. Anything that's got just nice green color to it. I'm throwing a 1/2 ounce of War Eagle, 1 gold, 1 nickel blade. It's got a little chartreuse and white with a few strands of purple on it. I don't really think it matters that much on the color of spinnerbait. The main thing seems to be you got to work it slow. A lot of times I'm keeping the boat in 10 to 15 foot of water, and I'll keep the bait on the bottom till it gets up to about 5 foot. Then I'll just keep the bait suspended in that depth. And also catching a few fish on you call them a bladed bait. This is a Strike King. It's a 1/2 ounce. Working it just like a spinnerbait over the rocks. Get up to about 5 or 6 foot, trying to keep it right at that depth. Wiggle warts, rock crawlers, still working real good. It's kind of funny. I thought my crankbait bite was dying. And then today it seemed to be really good. The spinnerbait bite was a little slower. But I think there's so many fish on the move. Some of the fish that were biting a crankbait real good the last week or so have moved further back into creeks. And those are some of the ones that are getting ready to spawn. And I think there's going to be several more waves of fish coming in. And I think those are the ones that we're picking up on the crankbait again. Now it's getting to the time of year where you can go in the back of them creeks and throw like a little Ned rig. And you don't even have to be in the back of the creeks. If you go into a long creek, I know down there by the dam, if you get in some of them pea gravel pockets, the little Ned rig is starting to work. But here again, you got to fish it dead slow. A couple different colors I'm throwing. If the water's fairly clear, I'll throw the PBJ. If it's got a lot of stain to it, I think this one's called a Bomber Craw. It's a Strike King. And I use the elastic ones, the stretch ones. I super glue them up on these little mushroom heads. They'll last a long time that way. And I'm throwing them, mainly on 6-pound line, getting it on the bottom and just barely moving it. A lot of the bites you won't even feel. It'll just be a pressure bite or feel like you're getting hung up on a rock. And the same with the crankbait, the spinnerbait. A lot of the bites you don't feel. If you feel that bait, deflecting off a rock, or the main thing is if you feel the bait stop wobbling, you need to be setting the hook. But like I say, I can't emphasize enough how slow you got to fish these baits. You want to just crawl them along. Now, like I say, that bite's going to get, a little bit more active, but I think a person could go in these same areas, in the pockets, in the creeks. And tomorrow I'm going to throw a Cinco quite a bit and try it. And I also believe that a fluke will work. It might be a little early for the fluke, but I know the Cinco will work. In the same places that you're throwing a Ned rig, we've been catching a few fish on a 3/8 ounce football jig. This is a pig sticker. Green pumpkin orange, and I've got you can use like either a critter craw or a zoom speed craw. I've got a Strike King rage craw for a trailer on this one. Another deal you can throw is like a biffle hard head, or this is called a pig rig. It's like a football head with the swivel on it, and I'm using the same kind of baits. Either like a little beaver will work, a critter craw. This is a baby rage craw, but any kind of small crawdad bait. In this bait, you want to work, dead on the bottom, just barely keep it moving like a crankbait. And, just about all the baits I'm talking about, I haven't been catching hardly any fish past that, 6 to 10 foot range. 6 to 8 foot seems to be the magic depth. And don't be afraid to mix it up on different rock. I might, at 10 o'clock, I might catch them on gravel, and then 1 or 2 o'clock, I might start catching them on the chunkier ledge rock banks again. Seems like you just got to keep moving around and mixing up the baits. The wind will help. It seemed like it definitely helped today. When the wind picked up, that's when our bite picked up. But as far as the fish back in the pockets, it doesn't seem like you need any wind at all. Those fish, a lot of the bigger females are in there to spawn. And a lot of the buck bass will be in there starting to make beds. And now those are the guys that'll start getting a lot more active, the more males to get back in there. The bigger ones to be caught are the females, if you can get them before they go into the very backs. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.